Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, and in today's video I want to talk about breeding crested geckos, what you need, what you should expect, and just kind of how to steadily grow and things like that. So let's get right into it. Also, if there's an echo, I do apologize. The room is still not filled. As you can tell, I'm wearing the same shirt from the video that you saw on Tuesday. This is Thursday. Well, it's still Sunday here, but it's Thursday for you and for me because you know how time moves. So let's get right into the video. Apologize for the echo, but let's get right into this. All right, so the first thing you're gonna need, and this is very obvious, is two geckos. You'll need a male and a female. Now, there's ways about going about that. Now, do you buy an adult male and an adult female who are 100% gonna be male and female? Or you can do somewhat to what I did. I bought 4 baby crested geckos, and I ended up with 1 male and 3 females at the time. I got really lucky when I first started buying crested geckos that they all ended up being the sexes that I wanted them to. That doesn't happen for everybody. In fact, more often than not, it's the opposite of that. So that's definitely something to consider. If you're gonna be buying a proven adults or just a proven female and then an adult male, you're probably gonna invest anywhere from $500 minimum just on the geckos. That's what I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to get a higher end female and then a higher end male. And you know, a higher end female is gonna range on the low end, probably $300. And then on the higher end, they're $500 on their own. We've sold proven females for $500 before. So you have that range there. So, you know, understand 500, if you really want a quality pair of geckos, 500 is absolutely the low end, and it's gonna be tough. You're probably gonna end up, for $500, in all honesty, now that I'm thinking about it, you're probably gonna get a, probably close to ready to breed female and close to a ready to breed male. So, and then you can grow them up for a little bit, or if you got $1,000 that you wanna throw down on this, then now you can buy a $600-700 female, and then you can buy a, you know, $300 or $400 male, and now you're cooking. So now you're gonna have something really, really cool. So first thing, breeding crested geckos, you need the 2 of them, but you need to be smart in what you invest in. The other thing I would highly recommend is, even if you buy 2 proven breeders or 2 whatevers, you need 2 tanks. You cannot buy 1 tank and put them together. Number 1, the quarantine period, 2 tanks or 2 tubs, however you want to do it is up to you. The quarantine period alone, you need to keep them away from each other, just because odds are you're not going to buy 2 geckos from the same person. And even if you do, I would still keep them separate. We keep all of our geckos separate here. It's just, that's personally how I do it. That's my opinion. It is what it is. So you'll need 2 tanks, preferably 18 by 18 by 24s. All in on that, you're probably talking $300. If you're, you know, $100 for supplies, $100 a tank, you're probably really close. If you want to do a fully bioactive tank, okay, jack that price up. It's up to you though. You know, if you want to do plants and everything, plants make tanks really expensive because plants themselves are expensive. So understand that's all kind of encompassing. So now we're close to $1,500 all in, and we haven't even produced a baby yet. And this is assuming I only have 2 geckos. Now, one thing I personally wish that I would have done when I first started is I wouldn't have gotten so many so fast, okay? And that's the problem. That's the good and the bad of these guys. They're so cool, they're so lovable, and they're so easy and fun to take care of that it's easy to end up with 40 or 50 of them. It really just is. So, something to consider if you are starting, and you know, I would recommend, if I could do it differently, the only thing I would do differently is my first pairs would be higher end. Now, it is scary to do that because you have to prove this out. So I see all sides of it. I understand it. I would just make sure that you're buying quality geckos, because now you're in a position like me where we had a lot of quality geckos, but it took me, you know, almost 3 years to find that I wanted to work with super dowels. So with it taking me almost 3 years to find what I really wanted to work with, I don't feel like it's like lost time or anything like that, because, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, 3 years is not that long, and I was still able to produce a lot of cool stuff. And you have to start somewhere to find what you like. So Also understand too that that day one pair that you start with, or you know, if you got the money and you buy 2 females and 1 male, which then you're probably gonna need 3 tanks, I highly recommend it. You females can live together. We've talked about this before. So I would highly recommend finding something you like, and you gotta, the hard part about breeding, guys, is you gotta stay project oriented. You really cannot, if you wanna be a successful breeder, being eclectic is tough. Like, if you want, I want a super Dow, I want a brindle, I want a tiger, and I want an extreme harlequin, and I want a tricolor harlequin. Some of that stuff will go good together. And I want a super Dow. I think I might have already said that, but whatever. Some of that stuff does go together, but if you look at all the high-end breeders and you look at their pairs are very strategic and it's very smart. They're pairing extreme harlequins to extreme harlequins. Or they're pairing extreme harlequins to like an extreme harlequin that has a white wall on him. Or, you know, like, it's very strategic, it's very planned to get the best outcome of a baby. If you pair a brindle and a tiger together, not to say that that's not the best outcome for that baby, I personally would rather do a tiger to a tiger or a brindle to a brindle. That's just my personal opinion on that. I hope that that makes sense. That's the one thing that anybody who reaches out to me, like on Facebook or even on YouTube, I just tell them, be project oriented. Find something that you like right now. Okay, because remember, just because you like it right now doesn't mean you're gonna like it in 2 years, and that's okay. It's, you know, it's part of growing. That's part of life. You know, you don't like the same things you did when you were 14, so it's okay. You know, that's kind of the way things roll. So when you look at it like that, start with something you really, really enjoy right now. Like when I first got in, I really loved harlequins. I thought harlequins were like the coolest freaking thing ever. I loved harlequins. I loved the idea of an extreme harlequin. Like, I wanted to produce extreme harlequins. And I still definitely love my harlequins, and I'm keeping that project around, and that's actually the project that got moved to the tanks first, is my extreme harlequin project, sorry. Because I really like it. We have a tricolor, we have an extreme, and then we have a lavender extreme harlequin. So I really enjoy that, but now I'm finding that I really just want to I want to put super Dow into everything. That's what I'm really enjoying right now. So understand that your goals right now may change in time, but that is part of growth. So when breeding, that's why I say start small and grow, because you're going to figure out what you like. Now, you know, I worked with a lot of like, you know, bicolors, what else? We worked with some patternless. We had some porthole projects going where I was just trying to get specific traits out. A lot of that helped me learn what I really enjoyed working with. So there is a flip side to that argument. Now, I do think that in time I could have figured out that, hey, I really enjoy working with super Dows, and it probably would have been my end goal anyway. But I had the opportunity to learn, you know, through that. So I do see both sides of it. I would just say grow slower and don't just collect a ton. If you are gonna go that route where you're gonna buy a ton, then I highly recommend buying like 10 to 20 babies and raising them up. And then whatever you got, if you got, let's say you get 5 females and 5 males, if you buy 10, I would see what pairs work and I would sell what doesn't. And then I'd take that money that you make from selling those and I'd reinvest it in a higher end animal. That's what I would do. And that is kind of, it's not really what we did, but it's similar to what we did. But keeping it smaller does help, because all geckos cost the same to feed. So in theory, if all geckos cost the same to feed, and you're going into this knowing you want to breed and you want to try to make this a business, then you need to buy higher end stuff. You need to buy stuff that makes sense, because here's the thing. I've heard people do the argument of like, well, hey, if I pair these two just normal harlequins together, it could produce an extreme. Yes, that is true. There is no denying that. It could. But guess what? If you pair 2 extremes together, it could just produce a harlequin. It goes both ways. But higher end animals have a higher percentage chance of producing the high end animals that you want, either 1 for yourself or 2 to sell, or 3, probably a mix of both. So understand that if you're like, I'm just gonna buy these 2 geckos, pair them together, I'm gonna hit the jackpot on one of them. Likely you will not, because that's just not the way the market works, and that's not the way that people really look at this. So you do have to understand that you're gonna get what you put into it. So if you really want to make this something for you, like long term, it's much more beneficial to start out higher end. So that rant is over. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's say now you got your female. She hopefully, now here's the thing too, your first season with that female, it's probably not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. You're probably not getting as many fertile eggs as you will out of a 5-year, vet breeder who she just lays every freaking month, 2 eggs every 35 days. They get consistent, but that first year, it can take 3 or 4 months for her to lay one time, and I guarantee you that first time, they're probably going to be duds. It's just the way it seems to happen. I have had females who hit the ground running and they were laying fertile eggs, and I was like, this is insane. But I've had a lot more females take a couple months, and it is what it is. You also have to understand too, part of this, you're dealing with live animals, you're dealing with nature. There's a lot of things that you cannot control in this, especially when one of the variables is another thing with a brain this big, and it has mind of its own. It thinks on its own. So you can't control everything. You can't control how good the locks are. There's a lot of variables that you can't control. Now, granted, we're working in a market too right now with Crested Geckos that's very saturated, right? So when you work in a very saturated market, typically they're very easy to breed. So you will be able to breed them, but just anticipate it may take a couple months for your female to get going. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just the way it works. If your female does start laying immediately, you're talking hopefully 16 to 20 babies that year, and then she gets to cool down for 2 to 3 months. Like I said, I've seen it both ways. I have some females this year who are only gonna lay probably 14 eggs for me, and I have some females who are gonna lay closer to 20. Once again, luck of the draw, it's nature, it is what it is. You can safely rely on 8 months worth of production, so close to 16 eggs. 14 to 16 eggs is a safe bet to think of for your first season. And if you plan for 14 or 16 and she gives you 20, you're happy. If you plan for 14 or 16 and you only get 12, you're still happy because you came in with realistic expectations. If you come in thinking your female is going to lay 20 eggs and she only lays 12, you're going to be bummed. If you come in thinking it's going to be 14 to 16, you're only off by 2, you came in with the right mindset. So understand that babies will come, they hatch. They're gonna hatch anywhere from as low as 60 days to as high as, good Lord. I've seen people post day 151 on Facebook, and you're like, that's unbelievable. I can't believe this egg hasn't exploded, but it happens. My eggs are very consistent. I rarely, unless it's like late season, sometimes we have some that go really long. As you guys know though, I don't track when eggs are laid. I don't write down dates. I don't count, because if they're gonna hatch, they're gonna hatch. I can tell when they've gone bad. I don't candle them constantly. I candle them one time, they're fertile, great. If they end up dying in a couple weeks, is what it is. I'm just not gonna get caught up like, it's day 88, what should I do now? It's like, just breathe. You're gonna be okay. The gecko will hatch when the gecko's ready to hatch. So just chill, it doesn't matter, it's fine. The other thing, kind of the last big thing when you do start this, breeding 101, you gotta go into this having a plan to sell. You have to have a plan to sell. Like I mentioned before, this is a very saturated market. Get on Morph Market and look at how many people are selling Crested Geckos. Look at how many are available on Morph Market, and understand that it's a growing marketplace for people. But if the marketplace is growing where more people want Crested Geckos, then more people are gonna start breeding them. And that's why I highly encourage you to breed higher end geckos, because you now have more of a niche market of people who want that and who are going in expecting higher end geckos. That's a better market to be in. And I've helped out a lot of people who have bought from me, who I'll talk to them and be like, hey, what are your plans? What are you thinking? If I had, and this is just like a random pull, but I had somebody who wanted to buy, like, it was one of our Super Dow babies and Extreme Harlequin. I was like, that's cool. I was like, are you gonna breed them? And they're like, yeah, I think so. And I was like, have you bred before? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then I would probably start off with either 2 super dowels or 2 extremes, because it's going to be easier for you to sell those babies and then get established a little bit and get a good name, and then start maybe messing with some really neat pairings. That the big thing is preparation and understanding that some of these babies you're going to hold on to for a year or 2 years before they sell. It happens. We just sold a male who was actually like the 3rd baby I ever hatched, and we finally just sold him. It took a very long time to sell this animal. I don't know why. It's just that's what the market determines. So be prepared to house these babies. Understand that, if you're gonna go cheaper, then you're gonna do a lot of tubs, and that's fine. I do a lot of tubs. We're getting over to tanks finally, because that's what I enjoy this. So understanding that that's kind of part of the deal is you really need to prep. And a lot of people who just want to breed crested geckos for fun, like, oh, I just want to do it for fun. It's harder than that, and it's not like, I would not, unless you're doing this, not necessarily like for profit. I mean, like, I don't live off of this. This is nowhere near like this. No, like I do not live off of this. I have a full-time job. This is just my hobby. So, but with that, understand that is my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing. It's what I enjoy spending a lot of time with. So I know that I can handle any amount of babies. Well, that's not true. I can handle a large quantity of babies just because I'm passionate about it. Not everybody, if your goal is to quit your job full-time to breed crested geckos, you're gonna have to expand to a scale that is it's not hobby anymore. So that's another, I'll do a video on that, hobby versus business, and the fine lines that those will straddle over time. So just understand, if you are going in this and you want to breed crested geckos, you have to go in with a business mindset, otherwise you will fail. And that's kind of the big thing, is just understand, business-wise, expect to invest and expect to work your butt off to get any form of return on it. So this video is far too long. If you did make it this far, then you really should just give a thumbs up, because this is kind of absurd how long this video is getting. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, guys, stay safe and stay positive.